Hello, and welcome to Can't Find My Brain for the Fog with Kendra
and Gina, discussing love, loss, and life after.
All right, and welcome back to week 11.
Gosh, 11. Magic number 11.
Magic number 11. We thought for this week we would do a little bit of a check-in, just catch up, because it's been a while, right?
Yeah.
It feels like it's been forever.
It does. It's been 2 weeks, but then we had a hiatus before that.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. It's been a little
We're like movie stars and soap opera stars. We have a hiatus.
We have a hiatus. We have such busy schedules and we have to take a hiatus. So how are you? How is it going?
I'm good. It's coming up on 3 years Tuesday. So, getting myself ready. We've talked about that before.
Yeah.
I think I'm getting myself psyched up. I have decided to purposely not remind people that it's coming up, so
Yeah.
not to test them, but just because I don't want people to feel, I just want people to remember on their own, and if they do, they do. If they don't, they don't. So I'm getting myself psyched up for the week, and I guess technically it would have been, he would have passed away this past Friday, because I remember he passed away right after Juneteenth, and we just celebrated Juneteenth.
Right.
And he passed away right after that. I remember that because my friend was here for a long weekend, and she left on the Monday, and he died on the Friday. So,
That's probably right, because Juneteenth was Thursday. So.
Yeah. So, and I think Juneteenth sometimes, like that year, must have been celebrated on the Monday.
Sometimes.
Yeah. So it's getting myself. Arranging some things for that day. I got to work that day. Arranging some things for that day just to be comfortably. People have already said, "Hey, you want to go eat that night? You want to go have lunch?" So I've got some people that have already remembered, and that's good. And not gonna put myself in a situation to be disappointed. So, if somebody doesn't remember. So yeah, so that's how I'm going.
I always have to build up to it in my head, and then inevitably it's never as bad as the build-up is, if that makes sense. Like, the week up to it is almost worse.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost worse than the day of. And then it's like the next day is almost worse, because that's when everybody remembered, oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And so then they try to, like, reach out to me, and it's almost like just, not that I don't appreciate that, but it's still sometimes it's a lot.
Well, yeah, I'm comforted that people remember.
Yeah.
And I'm comforted that people have already remembered.
Yes.
My coworker brought me flowers because she knew she wouldn't be there Tuesday, so that's preemptive. She didn't do a last minute thing. My couple of my very close friends have remembered and gave me a card and flowers in pre. They knew they wouldn't be with me that day, so that's good. But I don't want to be in a situation where I feel like I'm overwhelmed and I have to leave, and the people say, what's up? And I have to say, well, don't you remember?
Right.
Because
that's worse.
It's worse. So I'm just not even going to put myself in that situation. So, yeah. But I'm like you. I don't know. I've been pretty okay building up to it. I tell myself every day, he's there. I was talking to somebody this week about how thin the veil is between heaven and earth. I feel like if I could reach through an invisible wall into heaven, I feel like I could just touch him, and I'm telling myself that he's right there.
That brings you comfort.
Yeah, like these old movies. I saw an old movie one time where this girl lived in a completely other lifetime, and the guy was in the modern times, she was in the Civil War times, and they were in the same house in same times, and he's going up the stairs and she's coming down, and they feel each other. Mm-hmm. That's kind of how I feel. I just feel like he's right there, and sometimes I get those love letters to say he's there, and sometimes I just may psych my mind out to say it, but I feel it.
There's nothing wrong with finding comfort in things, I think. I mean, we've talked about that before. People find comfort in different things. Some people, the butterfly. Some people, the cardinal bird. Sometimes, I'm not one to look for signs, but even I admit that sometimes if I'm at the cemetery and a butterfly flies by, it's a moment of like, oh, that's nice. Like, that kind of brings me comfort that moment.
I had a friend who lost her dad this week, and it's, like I said, she's not looking for signs, but things that you just cannot deny.
Right.
And a lightning bug flew in the house and landed on her finger.
That's impressive.
Yeah, and you know, you got to chase those things around a little bit. And not only did it land on her finger, it stayed on her finger, not in a cupped hand, but stayed on her finger while she took it outside, let it go. And that, I think she's had a couple instances like that. So I don't look for signs. I don't want to make something out of something that's not there. But there's some things you just can't deny, like the lightning bug. But like I'll be sitting in line at McDonald's and there's a dragonfly just bouncing in front of my window, just staying there for the whole time I'm sitting there. And unless I drive, and even when I drive off, he's trying to stay there. He just can't. And I think that's a sign I feel I get comfort in, seeing the dragonfly. Since they show up after he passed away, and I'm even seeing, like today to church, I wore a dress that he bought me, and I never noticed it, but the print is it's not a dragonfly, but it's looks like a dragonfly, and I'm like, oh wow, that's weird. So maybe I paid special attention to that today. So
Maybe.
It's cool.
And it's okay. It's okay that we do that. It's just been a really busy time for me. I think we talked about loneliness and next of kin and stuff, and the unexpected feelings that come up. And I think that was relevant, probably because I think that was around the time of some of the other anniversaries we had going on. So that could be part of why we.
I think that was my anniversary.
Could have been.
Because we just celebrated our 13th anniversary, and then he, died in the next month. So yeah.
And it's just been a really busy start to the summer so far.
Busy, but, and a sucky June.
A rainy June.
Yeah,
rainy
I've never
June.
seen so much rain in my life, and it's travel and
the rain always makes, not always, but a lot of times the rain just makes it a little bit harder on me because of my business, but also it gives me it makes my migraines worse and just puts me in a funky mood.
Yeah.
I feel like sometimes.
When I find myself, I cling to excessive busyness, busyness for the sake of just being busy. I'm coming out of that a little bit. Like Kendra and I've said, I'm going to be 3 years into this journey, 3 years, starting the 4th year on Tuesday, and I'm just now getting in the last maybe 3 or 4 months where I don't plan every minute of my day. That I'm free, like on the weekends. I mean,
I do catch myself getting a little bit over busy on things too.
Yeah.
And I think it's because we're trying, maybe a distraction.
That's right. I think it is.
I was thinking about that yesterday. Like I said, I was supposed to be resting yesterday, and what did I do? I rearranged my kitchen and painted half of it.
Yeah.
And I think that's a prime example of just keeping myself busy and trying to.
Yeah, nobody wants to sit home by themselves. I mean,
sometimes I do.
Yeah. Well, I guess even if sitting home and having somebody in the house, even if you're not talking to them, they're just there, the physical presence. I like that. That's good for me.
You're that friend that people can just come over and watch Netflix and chill on the couch with you.
That's what I like.
Order food and call it a night.
Yeah. We did something this week. It was very big girl of us, I think.
Yes. So, talking about not being alone, we finally tried to start this group that we've been talking about. Besides talking about starting a podcast, this is really Gina's brainchild, but she's been wanting to start a group, a fellow group of widows.
And we did, and we talked about it when Kendra and I first started sending texts back to each other, and we, it's just, I'd see something and I'd send it to her, she'd see something, send it to me, things that were comforting. Probably by now we've probably sent things 5 or 6 times the same thing.
Right.
I don't know.
Sometimes we send each other the same things.
And sometimes there's new things, but we just started thinking, we met together and we thought it'd be neat to have a group, not neat, but just out of necessity to have a group that can share with each other and understand each other's feelings. And it took us a while because we really, I don't know if we were half-hearted about it first, but.
I think in my case I've just had, that goes back to that busyness. I think we had said yes to too many other things.
Right.
And hadn't had time to say yes to that.
Right.
And I think we finally sat down and said, you know what, let's do it. Because we were, when did we spark? I think I messaged you after our last session?
Yeah, well, I think, too, what sparked it is that I had 2 or 3 friends or acquaintances that lost their husbands very close together.
Yeah.
and within a 9 month, and then some of them within a month of each other.
Yeah.
And I thought, here are these ladies that we could help.
Yeah. There were several. There was one that we both knew, someone that we both knew, and someone that I knew of, but I didn't really know her.
Mm-hmm.
I knew her spouse, kind of,
Yeah.
through work. And we just kept talking about it and bouncing around. We should do this. We should do this. And finally we were like, let's do it. So
Yeah. And
so we did. We met
Yeah.
yesterday for coffee. A group of us. We had about
There's five.
there were 5 of us for the first group.
Yeah.
And there were a few others we invited, and they didn't make it, and that's okay.
Well, I said
Yeah.
I've stopped making. I don't want to make God. I want to let God do His thing, and I
Right.
felt like the invitation was there.
Mhm.
People come when they're ready.
Yeah.
And it was great because we were there 2 hours, and I left and went to get gas, and when I came back by, you guys were still out there talking.
Yeah, a couple of us were still standing in the parking lot. We had gotten distracted, and we were talking a little bit more. But and I think that was good. Like I think I was a little apprehensive at first too, because I honestly didn't know. I only knew the one lady a little bit. Like we weren't close friends, but I knew her, and the rest of them I really really didn't know. And I'm kind of a very shy person when I 1st meet people. Like I'm good in situations where I'm acting in a customer service role, but I'm not so good in a situation where I'm actually having to try to make friends.
Yeah.
So I think it took me a little bit to warm up and like start talking, but I do think I think it was good. It was good.
Good. I
Group.
think we had. You don't know how you're going to feel, but you want to feel open to tell your stories. You don't want to be. We've always, and this is something I think it's important to say when it comes to a group. Everybody's going to grieve. We've said it differently. Some people are going to move through it quicker than others, maybe. Some people may appear to move through it quicker than others. That doesn't necessarily mean they're doing it. Right. Some people we've talked about, some people may date earlier than we feel we are comfortable with for ourselves. That's not to say that person doesn't still need to be around people who understand the grief process.
Right.
Some people may be angry. Some people may be just a bag of tears.
And all these things are valid.
Okay.
All these things are valid.
Yeah.
And you can be a mess and still let people love on you in your mess,
And you're either comfortable with hugs or you're not. I liked how you said, are you okay with hugging? And
yeah, one of the ladies started to get upset, and I leaned over to but I wanted to ask first, because not everybody is comfortable with hugs, especially post-COVID world that we are in.
Yeah.
But even before that, I knew people that were not comfortable with hugs.
Yeah. I think that brings up and that's something that the group brings up is, when you're going through this, you've got to find what works best for you.
Yeah.
But the one thing I would say is don't just say, that's not going to help me.
Right. You don't know until you try it.
Yeah.
You have to be willing to try things sometimes, because you never know. I think life is completely a learning experience, and everything you do teaches you something. It may teach you that was terrible and I don't want to do it again.
Yeah.
But it teaches you something. Now I do think we have brains that we can use for certain things, like not to do, don't do something stupid.
Right.
But sometimes we have to be open to new experiences,
Yeah, and I think, I would have said, before Tim passed away, I would have said, I don't think I'll ever be a counseling type of girl, but we've talked about that. I've done the counseling. I was excited that when we met, nobody was in a rush.
Right.
I mean, somebody had somewhere they had to go, and that's valid, but that was already planned. But nobody really seemed to be like, okay, let's get out of here. We could have sat there all day long. They probably would have closed the place around us, but we never got tired of talking.
Yeah, and everybody was willing to talk. There were some that were quieter than others, but for the most part, everybody was willing to talk and share, and I think that was good. That was a good experience for all of us, I think.
I think one thing that was neat, we talked about how one person likes to journal on their phone, and I said I've journaled on Facebook and would like to write a book. And one of the ladies said, I just don't feel comfortable with that. And I said, it's not about feeling comfortable. You feel comfortable with doing, nothing has to come out to the public.
Right, you do what you feel comfortable with.
You do what you're comfortable You do you.
Yes.
I like it.
Because I do a blog. I have a blog, and I not entirely I don't keep up to it as much as I would a journal. And I have done the journaling a little bit here. but I'm not very consistent with that either.
Yeah.
But I do have a friend of mine when Jim passed away had told me, that was one of the first things somebody told me was, get a journal and start writing.
Yes, that's exactly the advice I got.
Because
Write
it
to
just
them.
gets it's not necessarily that it's for, and it may not be for anybody to read. You can write it down and then light it on fire if you want.
Right.
It's just, it just gets it out of your head, I
Mm-hmm.
think. And you can write it as a letter to your spouse. That's how my journaling usually
Mm-hmm.
is. It's a letter to Jim. My blogs, sometimes they're a letter to Jim. Sometimes it's just an open stream of consciousness of whatever is coming out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's whatever is in my head at the time that needs to come out. But it doesn't have to be one way. There's no right or wrong way with that. And, and it's a good way it's a safe space to express that. That's why I like the journal idea, to have something private. The phone idea is a cool one. I hadn't thought of that. I don't know if I would keep up with that as much, but I do like the idea because honestly, when Jim and I started dating, we did a lot of texting. Like that was kind of how
Yeah, you said that.
that's how our relationship built. It was a lot through texting. So the phone idea is a cool one, and I did for a long time. I would occasionally send him a text message still, because I have his phone, so I would send it a text message every once in a while, and I encouraged the kids that they could do the same. And my stepdaughter would do that and still does that sometimes. And I don't read her messages, she knows that that's private, but
That's a premise of one of my favorite movies. It's called Love Again, and the girl texts
I have
her
seen
husband,
that one.
and somebody else has gotten his phone,
Right.
so she's texting. She doesn't realize she's texting a total stranger. She doesn't really know who. They're not responding,
Right.
but he falls in love with her from her texts. Sees her heart and. So I thought her thing was text. Somebody told her to pour a glass of wine, glass for her, a glass for her
Husband.
departed husband. It was a boyfriend actually, but she found out he was going to ask her to marry him, and then she didn't feel comfortable. She said, and the guy said, just pour a glass of wine and talk to him, and that's what he did to his deceased wife. And she said she started not feeling comfortable with that, so she poured 2 glasses of wine. She started texting him.
Yeah. But we also want to make sure that we're on Facebook now. We're on Instagram now, so you can share on Facebook and Instagram. You can listen even if you don't have Spotify. If you click on that link on Facebook, it will open it up. Although I'm assuming you're listening if you're on Spotify.
Yeah.
But if you want to share it with somebody and they don't have Spotify, they should be able to still listen even without the account.
If you have somebody that you think has lost someone, and we were talking about not getting feedback. We've not gotten any feedback from the Instagram post, but we have gotten personal feedback.
Right.
And
we've had people
from a
personally
friend,
reach out to us and tell us,
that they've been helped, and if it's nothing else to say, hey, we're in your same boat.
Right.
We're in the same boat with you.
Right.
So.
And we want to hear more of that. Like we really want to hear people's topic ideas, people's feedback ideas. We have some topics lined up that we're wanting to work on down the road, but we're open. We're open to other ideas. I really liked that last episode with Ann Yeager. What about you?
That was I told people it was like a true crime podcast, but I've shared with people the things that we learned there, and I'm like, it's made me rethink my burial plans. I said, actually, I told my financial planner yesterday, I said, I'm going to go and do all my arrangements, but I'm not going to pay for it yet, because if Jesus comes back before I pay for it, that'll be money I've wasted, so I might as well spend it. He goes, I like the way you think. I can't argue with your logic. But if they tell me the cost is going to go up, then I can lock it in, then I may rethink that. But,
I rethink your plan.
Yeah. So,
it's hard to be prepared.
Well, you do it for people so that the people that come behind you don't have to stress it and all that and worry where's the money going to come from. But the money's there. Just call this guy and ask for the money. But I said, why pay for it up front when,
somebody could use that
Jesus
money
comes back in 6 weeks or 6 months, then I would have wasted that money and not been able to spend it. I could have go to France or something like that. So, yeah.
It was very informative. I definitely think we need to have her back on a future episode for maybe talking about funeral planning or something along those lines.
Yeah. She has a gift. I mean, she is, and she's been through it. And she's been through it in a different way, and she has very big insight for things that you think about. You want to think about it when there's not an emotion attached to
Right.
it. But then
Right.
again, don't think about something. Don't go so fast.
Right. Take time to plan it out. That is
Yeah.
a good lesson. And I think we also want to talk about, maybe coming up, we're going to have episodes on financial smarts, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's what we want to talk about. So if you have a recommendation and you're
Yeah.
in our area and you have a recommendation of somebody that we could talk to, or somebody that could talk to us with our program, we can
Yeah.
video chat with people. Maybe send them our way. We could, maybe with somebody we could use, or if you're listening and you're somebody that can see both sides of this and also is in that boat of has the knowledge about financial planning, let us know. We can talk about you. Maybe we can talk to you on a future episode. What about, is there other topic ideas you want to?
I was thinking too how one thing people advised to me when, and I think we talked about this. The first thing people say is, "Are you going to retire? Are you going to keep working? Are you going to sell your house?" And a lot of people advise me, you don't make a decision that first 6, 7 months, maybe even
Right.
a year. But I see people do that, and I'm thinking, yes, knee-jerk reaction. Now, some people might have to financially, and I'm blessed that I haven't had to do that.
I had the house question come up because people asked. I had people thinking, I guess they assumed I would move back with my parents. I'm not really sure why, because I haven't lived with my parents in quite some time. Even before Jim and I got married, I was living on my own. But there was that assumption that would happen. I had, and of course you get the vultures circling trying to buy your house, right?
Oh, yeah,
So
I get
I
that.
got a couple of those. I think my mom even fielded some phone calls because she asked me one day, she was like, "Are you selling?" Because somebody called me and asked me, and I'm like, "No."
Oh, yeah.
I have no intention of going anywhere.
Yeah.
I have too much junk to move at this point
Yeah.
to even consider.
Oh, I can't even.
But I have heard that. I've heard the 6 months thing. My sister-in-law actually mentioned it to me because of a situation that she has gone through with grief, and they had mentioned it to her. They had told her, "You don't make any decisions for 6 months."
Yeah, no major decisions. For 6 months. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
smart. No major decisions.
And I think it's so tempting though in the moment, like, to just be like, I need to control something, so you start doing all these things so that you have some control over your situation. It's trying to get some semblance of control back in your life of like, I've lost my safety, so what can I do? And so people do kind of rush and make all these decisions, and I
Yeah.
get that. And
I can't even throw away Tim's toothbrush.
Yeah, I mean,
it's sitting there. It's just like there's something about just taking it and tossing it in the trash
that's
that feels to me like I'm throwing him away, and I know that's dumb, but I'm not there.
I mean, I have a bottle that Jim used that I haven't yet thrown away, and I know that probably sounds gross. It's sitting in my car. I can't bring myself to throw it out. I've had people that are like, "Why don't you throw that away?" And I'm just like, we're gonna leave it. I can't do it. I don't know why.
Yeah, I said this before, I think, but his fingerprints, where he worked around chlorine, because he would often have to go up and do something with the pool, but the combination of sunscreen on his hands and that chlorine has left little fingerprints in my car, and it won't go away. It won't clean off, and I'm like, that's okay.
That's kind of nice.
So it's like his little fingerprints are right there, and just like his hands on my car.
Yeah.
I like that,
Yeah.
and I don't try hard to get. I mean, I'm sure I could find something to get it off, but if it didn't wipe off the first time, I'm thinking, nah, I'm not going to work hard
I'm
to
not
get
stressed
that.
about it.
Can't. His clothing, I've given things to people a little bit at a time, but if it's not, if I think the person's just going to discard it, I can't give it to them.
I have, and I think I've mentioned this before, I've gone through clothing a few times. So, like, I went through one first round and pulled out things that had no attachment to anybody. And I let my stepdaughter look through things and pick out, if there was something in that pile that she wanted, she could have it. And then if there was anything specific that she wanted anyway, she could have it. But we went through and pulled out all the things that had no attachment whatsoever. And I donated those. And then so I've slowly been, and then I go back through a little while, a few months later, I went through again and kind of parsed it back down a little bit more. And then I went through, so I've slowly been, like, doing that a few times of, like, things that were in the maybe pile, instantly I kept it until I can make a better decision down the road.
Right.
And that's because I know if I sit here and agonize over this one thing, then it's going to take me forever to do it all, and I'm never going to get through anything. So that's
Yeah.
it's kind of in things that are instantly okay. That can go.
Yeah.
Then it's been going.
Yeah,
But yeah, I haven't gotten rid of a ton of stuff. I've taken stuff to the kids, and I've got a hat set aside that I'm going to give to a friend of his. I just haven't had a chance to get it to him yet. But there are other things, you know. My husband liked to partake in spirits. So
yeah.
too, we've talked about that. And we went to one of the bourbon places in the state here and, you know, did the dipping.
Yeah.
And so I've got a bottle here with his name on it, and I've been trying to decide. There's one that's opened, that he opened at our wedding, and it's mostly gone. And so I'm probably
That's your hot toddy bottle.
right. I may hold on to that one and just, you know, and there's probably my size drink left in it because there's like barely anything left in it. But there's another one that's full. It's not been opened, and I have sat here back and forth several times about thinking about who to give it to. Like, who do I want to give that to?
Mm-hmm. And
then I can't decide, so I just put it back on the shelf.
I did that with I had a special bottle of bourbon that was he pried it. He would drink bourbon now and then, but he was a beer drinker.
Yeah.
And he had a bottle that was autographed by the people who were distilling the bourbon, and I gave it as a wedding present to somebody I knew would treasure it. So I'm not saying bourbon's meant to be enjoyed, so I'm not asking them to like not drink it, but that way you know that bottle came from him.
Yeah.
And I took a bottle to a friend of mine. We just went to visit up in Michigan. I took a bottle of his collection to him. I still got some bottles that are probably worth some money, but I do keep a bottle because in the wintertime when I get a cold, I'd like a hot toddy. So I keep a bottle of the cheap bourbon. But that's things like that. I can't. I gave one of his rackets away right after he died. I don't know who took it. Can't remember, and I'm sure it wasn't somebody didn't want to have it, but I can't remember where it went.
Yeah.
So that bothers me because somebody asked me later and said I'd like to have one of his tennis rackets because he's a tennis pro.
Yeah.
And I said, well, I don't know where. I said, sure. And then I was like, well, where's his rackets? I know he had 2 of them, but I can only find one. And so you make decisions like that. You need to really think things through.
Yes.
Now I'm thinking things through a little bit better.
Yeah. That's why you don't rush to get rid of things as much as people will start circling asking for things, and it's just you don't rush to get rid of things.
Nobody wants his toothbrush though. But it's just there. It's like in the morning. It's just like he's there with me because his toothbrush is still there. Yeah. And I'd have none of his shaving stuff, his aftershave. Some of it's still there.
I still have a lot of all of his cologne.
Yeah,
Jim
haven't thrown away.
Jim was a big cologne guy. Like he would get all the different kinds of cologne, and I still have almost all of it. I gave a little bit to my stepdaughter, but
I think you do that. I think you do that as you get ready. So miscellaneous conversation that we're having.
Right.
And
that's what today was going to be. Today was let's check in and just see where the conversation takes us. We didn't really have a plot point in mind for today.
I was thinking this week about things that people did because I am in a place where I wanted to do something for a friend of mine who lost a loved one, and she was really right there when Tim passed, and I was thinking about gifts that have been really meaningful to me. I don't know if you ever had anything that somebody gave you that was.
I don't think I don't know. We did touch on that once, and but I don't know that anything specifically gift-wise has necessarily been, actions.
When you have to send somebody a gift after a loved one does, maybe think of something that's a little more personal.
Yeah. And it's all, you appreciate everybody thinking about you.
Anything is so appreciated.
Yeah.
Yes.
But as far as, actually something people need, I think it's more just, being there and doing things for them, but maybe something in their memory.
Yeah.
I like that idea, donating
Trees.
in their memory, donating to a charitable organization that they were a part of, or they appreciated, or they thought was, important.
I think I got one thing that I really, somebody named a star after Tim. They named it Roll Tide because he was in Alabama. But one thing I got, and this was actually when my dad passed away, but I found comfort in it. When Tim died, they got me a really comfortable fuzzy blanket.
Yes, I do have one of those.
And it was prayed over. and the fact that someone prayed over it and it lays over me is
Yeah.
really comfortable. But
I will.
I don't know why there's a random thought.
That is true. My cousin, or not my cousin, one of my good friends and her parents together. They all went and got a fuzzy blanket, which was really nice. Blankets are always nice too,
Yeah.
but.
Well, I was just thinking about people that listen to the podcast. Some of the people that are
Ideas.
listening to this podcast, all two of you, no, they're
Wait,
in
8.
situations. Yeah,
We
they're-
have 8 followers
Yeah,
now.
8
Get it right.
they're in situations where people are going to lose their loved ones.
Yeah.
And I guess I'm always thinking, not to win the prize, I want to be the one that gives them the most meaningful gift. But I've been really thinking since I
Yes.
got things from after Tim died. What are some things that meant the most to me? And that's the blanket and the star and things that are truly keepsakes have meant a lot. And so
I will say, and I think I've shared this, and my husband was a corrections officer. And so one thing that that they did, I had asked for a patch because I was trying to collect some of his patches to put in with his flag. But one thing that they did, someone there, a group of them there, I'm not sure exactly who did it, but a couple of his friends there put together a shadow box.
yeah, that's nice.
With his, it's really heavy. It has his gear in it.
Yeah,
It has his vest and his
that's nice.
his it has the whole thing in it. It's I haven't figured out where to put it in my house, so it's propped up in my bedroom because I'm thinking about putting it in my bedroom, but I haven't decided if I want to put it there, if I want to put it in a hall or somewhere out in the public area.
And you have to be able to hang it special too,
Yes,
because it'll be heavy.
Yeah, and that's the other thing, is going to figure out which wall is going to be able to support it. And then of course, where he was a firefighter, the fire department gave me his helmet.
Yeah,
So that's nice. Which those are things, anybody that's a first responder or anything, that's not something a general person can give. That's something that's specific to that family.
Yeah.
But one thing, and one other thing, I guess, this was something that somebody specifically did give me, and I was very touched, is a lady that, she wasn't really close friends with us, but she knew us. She had donated things to the fire department auxiliary because we do fundraisers and silent auctions, and she had donated paintings. She does watercolors. And she lived in the area, so she would do watercolors, and I had gone over there one time because she lived next door to one of my clients, and so I'd stopped by to say hi to her one time, and she had wanted me to come in, and she gave me a painting that she did of cardinals, and she said, and I didn't realize this, but Jim could talk to anybody. He was that guy. He could just talk to anybody. Mm-hmm. He could just walk up and start a conversation with anybody. Mm-hmm. And I guess she had come to one of the events, and they struck up a conversation together. And she is originally from Ohio. He's originally from Ohio. So their shared history is that they're both from Ohio. And that they shared some similar areas, and they talked about it for a while. And she said she said, I just thought he was just really nice, and I just really hated to hear that for you, and I just thought of you when I painted this, and so I wanted to give it to you. And I was very touched by that.
Yeah.
I was very appreciative of that, because it was something that she specifically thought about me, and specifically thought about Jim, and thought about us, and wanted to, give us something, give me something that, and so I was touched by that.
I think it's great. And because, like you said, the best gift is that she told you about conversations.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the best gift.
And that's what it comes with every time I keep it hanging in my living room, and so when I look at it, I think about, she had that conversation, and he made her feel welcome and friendly, and that's what my husband was good at. He was good at talking to people and making them comfortable.
But I think I'm open to any conversation. We're pretty much conversating about anything. So
right.
I'm ready to move on to episode 12 when somebody tells us what we need to talk about.
Right. We'll have to go down our list and,
yeah.
Maybe we need to put up a poll of what would you like to hear us talk about next.
What would you like to hear? And
we can do that. We can do polls.
Definitely don't be closed off to anything.
Be open
to every, and like I said, today was just a check-in to see how things were going with each other and go and tell you about our group.
We just want to encourage you. Keep going. Keep putting one foot in front of the other. And what is it? Kimmy Schmidt says you can do anything for, I don't remember how many seconds she says. I say 60 seconds. You can do anything for 60 seconds. Just keep going.
Keep going. That's right.
So
keep on pushing. I like it.
thank you all for tuning in this week, and hopefully we'll be back next week with a little more focus in our plan. And we want to hear some feedback.
We're never focused.
No, never focused.
I like it.
But we would like to hear some feedback.
Yeah.
We'd love to hear from you.
See
Tell
ya.
us what you think. Thank you. This has been Can't Find My Brain for the Fog, a discussion on love, loss, and life after with Kendra and Gina. We would love to continue the conversation with you, so join us on Facebook or Instagram, or leave us a comment here on Spotify. Give us some feedback on what we could do to improve, if you have any ideas for future topics, and more. We appreciate each and every one of our listeners for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.